and for everybody who's been tuning in, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving comments. Comments are really important because they tell us how to move forward with educating and helping out and trying to garner resources and assistance in the fight against post-incarceration syndrome. So one of the main questions we've been getting in the website, and please go like, subscribe to the website. And on the website is, what is PICS? What is post-incarceration syndrome? So I think the best way that we can go about explaining this and doing this is, I'm going to give you a little rundown of the 5 mental health challenges that returning citizens face, which are the cluster of mental health challenges that make up PICS, post-incarceration syndrome. And then what we'll do is I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at Breaking Chains Mending Minds, what our mission is, what our goals are, what our vision is. And we're going to do a series of videos after this, 5 in total probably, explaining each one of the mental health challenges and some coping skills. This is what we do in our workshops. We teach people about PICS. We help returning citizens learn how to maneuver a little bit better and move better in the world. You know, it can be a sticky place out here for a returning citizen, you know? So those 5 mental health challenges are institutional personality traits, right? Institutional personality traits are really the ways and behaviors that one learns to function in the prison environment, you know? There are certain moves that you can make, there's certain ways that you deal with each other. You know, in prison, respect is a huge thing, you know what I mean? The slightest disrespect can lead to riots, can lead to violence, and that's something that, believe it or not, prisoners want to avoid, because that leads to people getting hurt, that leads to you losing program, they take away your visits when something goes on the yard. So it's not advantageous for prisoners to engage in riots and violence and stuff, regardless of what people have told you. One thing about Breaking Chains Mending Minds is we have the credential, we have the experience to tell you about what prison life is really like and how to transition from prison into the world. So that's something that we're definitely going to do, is we're going to give you the real. We're not going to do none of the stereotyping, we're not going to do none of the game playing that people do to make themselves sound good or look tough or any of that kind of stuff. That's all false. That's all a fallacy. We want to give you the real because we're trying to deal with recidivism. We're trying to kill recidivism and keep our people in the community where we can grow, learn, and build as a community and get strong again. The second mental health challenge that returning citizens deal with is post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder manifests in sleep disorders. You know, it's hard to sleep when you're having dreams and nightmares about some of the things you've seen and experienced in prison, right? And poor sleep, being in the fight or flight, freeze or fawn response, causes you to be irritable, causes you to have a quick temper, and it causes more problems for you in the work environment and dealing with your family and all that. So post-traumatic stress disorder is a huge one. I don't know too many people, even just coming from the community, who haven't been incarcerated that don't deal with PTSD. So PTSD is a huge one. Then we have antisocial personality traits. Antisocial personality traits really is about how you relate to, as a returning citizen, let's talk about that specifically, how a returning citizen relates to an employer, a manager, a supervisor, and what that relationship looks like. You know, the prison relationship between a supervisor, a manager, and your peer is much different than that in the world. You know, but returning citizens have to be employed. We have to be employed, we have to be able to pay rent, we have to be able to contribute to our families, which we've been away from for so long. So the antisocial personality trait really is about controlling that relationship of authority figure to the now free ex-prisoner or ex-convict or returning citizen. You know, that mind state has to change. You know, you dealt with guards, you dealt with COs much differently than you would an employer, but there still is a parallel there, you know? And even your co-workers, that relationship is much different than the prison relationship with your peers, you know? So antisocial personality traits really deals with those relationships and how to manifest some of those lessons learned in prison in intercommunication, interdialogue, and how to manifest that out here in the world in the work environment. We also have social sensory deprivation syndrome. Every workshop we've done, and we've done a number of workshops, over hundreds and hundreds of returning citizens we've met and done workshops with. One thing that returning citizens consistently say causes them a lot of the other maladies, causes them a lot of stress, causes the PTSD to kick in, the fight or flight responses, is really the social sensory deprivation syndrome. And I'm saying that slowly so that you can understand it, because a lot of these are new terms that people are asking us about. social sensory deprivation syndromes deals with, especially for those who were locked in ADSEG, solitary confinement, you know, where your sensory environment is truly limited. Like if you look right now, I'm out here, I got trees, I got water, we got our e-bikes out here, we out riding today. Just look around me. Like there's so much sensory input here. I got the little bugs flying around and the soft little cottony fuzzy things flying around, hitting me and touching me. I can feel the sun on my skin. You can see I'm sweating a little bit. But this is all sensory input, right? When you're in solitary confinement or ADSEG or just the prison environment in general, your sensory input is limited, right? So for example, someone in solitary confinement, we know personally, and we've done workshops with guys and women who spent 17, 30, 20, 15, 10 years in solitary confinement, where you're talking about being locked in a cage 23 hours a day. All you can see is 6 feet in front of you to a brick wall. You don't get sunlight. You don't feel the wind on your skin, which is something I'm feeling now. The little goosebumps you get when the sun hits you or a breeze comes through. None of that sensory stuff exists. Even in the mainline prison situation, you know, you're seeing brick walls around you, barbed wire, dirt on the ground. Even though you might get some of the sensory stuff, it's a little bit more expansive, but you're still not getting the entire gambit of sensory information that you get out here in the world. So one thing a lot of returning citizens have to deal with is what we call social sensory deprivation syndrome, which means that you've been deprived of sensory input, the natural human environment and the natural human connection to the world around you and to other people. So when you're out in the world, all this stuff overloads your capacity to be comfortable, your capacity to function, right? So we've talked to returning citizens, and these are true stories. You know, returning citizens who go to the stoplight and just the cars zooming up and down the street, the police sirens, the lights changing. We talked to one guy, a real good brother who did, I believe it was 40-some years in prison, you know, sometime in solitary, and he said when he came home, you know, he came to the street light, ready to cross the street, pushed the button, the light changed, and he was stuck. You know, his social sensory deprivation syndrome had kicked in, and he couldn't cross the street. He was stuck, you know, to the point where he stood there for quite some time with cars zooming back and forth and had to call and find somebody to give him some help just crossing the street. So you can imagine what that does to a man, to a human being who survived and thrived through being incarcerated for 40 years and then to come out in the world and not even be able to cross the street on your own. It's a breakdown of your own self-worth, your self-value, and what you feel about yourself, and that affects the PTSD. That affects your self-image. That affects your ability to relate to other human beings, your family, your children, and everything else. So this post-incarceration syndrome really is a huge thing. Wow, look at those dragonflies. You see that? Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's sensory. That's that sensory information. You know, but so you know, and another good one, another good story, and it's not a good one, I don't mean to say it in that manner as if it's something good, but a good story that explains it is the prisoner, the returning citizen who goes into a grocery store and has now the choice of an aisle full of potato chips. You know, you got 1,000 different choices of potato chips, you know what I mean? And in prison, you only have 3 choices. So you go into a panic attack, hands sweating, heart palpitating, nervousness, inside of a grocery store, people looking at you, and I mean, it's a repeat story amongst returning citizens, how they had to leave the grocery store and what that does to your self-esteem and your self-worth and how you value yourself in the world. So we talked about institutionalized personality traits. We talked about post-traumatic stress disorder, which we'll go into in depth, each one of these in later videos. We talked about social sensory deprivation syndrome. So I want to hit you guys with what I believe is the most pervasive, is substance use disorder. Substance use disorder, addiction, right? Just to say it candidly and plainly, but substance use disorder is really a killer. You know, substance use disorder takes you out of your true self, your true mind, and it causes you to go places and to do things that you would never do. And as a returning citizen, you know, many returning citizens either go to using substances once they're released because they're looking for a relief. They're looking for something to calm the mind, to stop the constant berating that the mind does about who you are and what you should be able to do. Believe it or not, a lot of returning citizens return with what I classify as sort of a hero complex. Not to say that they think they're heroic because they went and did time or anything like that, but they come home with the idea that now I'm back and I can help my family. I can be a member of my community again. I can get out here and I can earn some money and I can start this program and I can do something to really help people who go to prison and stop people from getting to prison. I can teach these kids about what it's really like and get them to avoid that trap, you know? And when you get out here and you find out that, man, I can't even cross the street. You know, man, I can't even sit down and look at a menu and order a meal with my family without going into a panic attack. It does something to your self-esteem that causes you to sort of isolate and to begin to back away from the world. You know, and what's interesting about that is we're going to do a video and we're going to show you some of these stories in action so you guys can really understand what it's like. But one guy that was in one of our workshops, a really great friend of Breaking Chains Mending Minds, he told a story about coming home. You know, he has children, he's back with his wife, he had done 20 some odd years, and just the overload of trying to get the respect as the man of the house, where the kids hadn't seen their dad. You know, they were babies when he left, and when they come home, they're teenagers and grown. And the mother had been there all that time raising the kids, and she became the authoritarian. So he's there, and trying to get them to acquiesce to his authority became an issue. And he found himself eventually starting to build a cell down in the basement. Meaning he started stacking things on the shelf like he was going to canteen every month. He started keeping his clothes down there as if he was back in his prison cell. He started eating his meals down there, you know, and his family's confused, he's confused, but he's getting back into the routine, the institutionalization of a returning citizen, you know. This is how you've learned to function, and this is what worked for you, you know. So those are the maladies. Those are what we deal with as returning citizens and what we teach about in our workshops. So the flip side of that is the coping skills. We want you to know how to use these maladies to your advantage. You know, one thing about returning citizens and people who have been incarcerated is their loyalty, their commitment, their drive. You know, if you can survive prison, especially multiple decades, double-digit numbers in prison, in isolation, you can come out here in the world and you can do anything you put your mind to. And returning citizens become the best employees, they become the best business people, the best entrepreneurs. Their talent is out the world because you were deprived of all that contact, all that ability while you were incarcerated. So we want to give returning citizens, and what we have been doing is giving returning citizens the avenue, the means, the method to be able to get out here in the world, take those talents, take those skills, take some of those lessons you learned in prison and use them out here in the world to do the things you dream about doing, you know? And how to deal with some of the thoughts like, man, I lost 20 years, I lost 15 years, I lost 10 years, I lost 40 years. I feel like I'm so far behind. The world has moved on so far past. I don't know computers. I don't know any of this kind of stuff. But what you do know is you know how to carry yourself, how to function, and how to make something out of nothing. So we give those tools. We give those tools how to transition what you learned in prison, those experiences, into positive fuel for a motivated, successful life out in the world. And with that, let me tell you guys a little bit about Breaking Chains Mending Minds. Our mission is to help uncover the traumas and break the chains of post-incarceration syndrome. You know, we keenly focus on mental health, and we provide information, we network, we do workshops. We're working on, and we will have up and running very soon, a curriculum on the website that you can tap into, take the course, get the certificate. And the thing about getting certificates, the thing about this, it's like putting alphabets behind your name, you know, going to school and getting those degrees, those alphabets. What it does is it informs other people, one, that you have the dedication to commit yourself to something and follow it through, and two, that you know what you know. You know, your lived experience is very important, and that's the root, the foundation of what you do. But being able to just simply, a person reading who you are and knowing that you know what you know because you have this certificate, it gets you indoors. And so that's what we do. We provide certificates, we provide training. So our mission is to uncover the trauma of post-incarceration syndrome. And ultimately, what we really are fighting for is we're fighting to eliminate recidivism. We don't want people coming out of prison being so traumatized from the prison experience, getting out in the world, being re-traumatized, and then reverting back to or returning to crime or a criminal mentality or things that will get them back in prison. We want to shut down that revolving door of prison. We want to stop the prison industrial slave complex from making product of people and putting them on shelves in cages, making them a product, shipping them around the country and making huge multi-millions of dollars by turning human beings into product. We want to rehabilitate. We want people to be able to stand up and be proud of themselves, to be an asset to their community and their families. And so at Breaking Chains Mending Minds, our hearts, our minds, and our effort is to change the way that people are related to who have been incarcerated. And we want people who are returning citizens to relate differently about their experience. You know, we don't want you carrying the badge of shame. We want you to carry the badge of honor, which is, I had that slip, I had that fall, and now look at me standing tall. That's what we're all about. Our vision really is to bring awareness and resources to the community of people affected by post-incarceration syndrome. One of the things that is a big deal for us, and one of the things that we're attaching ourselves to and really trying to push forward, is legislation. We want legislation that directly goes toward funds being provided for returning citizens suffering with and trying to thrive through post-incarceration syndrome and these mental health maladies. One of the issues that we face as a community is the fact